Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to be putting in some major work for our accounts and possibly make enough progress to let you guys vote on a new task for us, so that's exciting. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's episode, and since voting for the collection log slots that we have to complete only last 24 hours, you might want to turn notifications on so you never miss a vote, but of course that's entirely up to you. We have worked very hard to make progress on these accounts, and I really hope you'll enjoy it. As a warning beforehand, for those of you who paid close attention, you'll notice some of the quests were completed in a different order, and I will say that's my fault because I didn't do a great job of keeping it all in order because there were so many that we did. So I just went by what the guide that we used said, and I just kind of put it in that order. But we pretty much followed Osiris's guide almost exactly, with just a few modifications for our accounts. Or, based off of what we had time to do, so that's why it might be slightly different. But with that said, let's get into it. As a quick recap, you guys voted in episode 0, and the results for the collection log slots that we must complete were: for beginner tier, rooftop agility, plus tutorial slayer creatures. Easy is going to be barrows, medium is medium clue scrolls, hard is going to be Zulrah, elite corrupted gauntlet, and master is the Inferno. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and try to knock out the beginner task of rooftop agility and the slayer creatures if possible, as there are several beneficial beginner tasks that are still in the voting pool that are helpful for us, so we would like to get a new vote going as fast as possible. As far as our overall goals, we realize that Zulrah is going to be a beast of a log to complete due to the 2 rare mutagen drops, so we need to put together the most efficient range and mage setups that we can get before we try to do that log. But luckily you guys have given us Corrupt Gauntlet, and that means that we can get the Bofa, so we're going to need to get Song of the Elves done as fast as possible and try to get a Bofa and Crystal Armor to pair with it, and then we will start trying to take down that log, and it's going to be a difficult task, but I think we can do it. Okay guys, we've been very busy working on these accounts, so I'm about to punch you in the face with some of the progress that we've made, so get ready for it. So we started out, we did 15 fire making in Lumbridge, then the X marks the spot quest, followed by Monk's Friend, 35 woodcutting on Oaks while fire making the logs, and then we did 20 thieving at the cake stall, 25 thieving with Silk, the Sea Slug quest, Plague City, then Daddy's Home mini quest, 50 fire making at Teaks, 20 construction. And then ordinarily this is the part where you would go to Wintertot and start doing that, but for obvious reasons we didn't do that here. Instead of doing Wintertot for our starter money, Tony was the actual MVP and started grinding the agility pyramid because at this point we weren't sure what the final vote was going to be. We made these accounts about a week before the first vote, so we weren't sure what was going to happen yet, and so he just found that this was the safest way for us to make money without risking ruining the series. And after that we continued and we did Shield of Arav together, then Gertrude's Cat to start getting cats raised up for death runes. We didn't do Witch's House here just yet, just in case the vote ended up being Wintertot to keep our HP low, but we came back and did it later on. Obviously the vote ended up not being Wintertot, but that's fine. Druidic Ritual, Knight's Sword, Tourist Trap, Fight Arena, Hazeal Cult, Tribal Totem, Dwarf Cannon, Waterfall Quest, got some Hosidia's Favor by plowing, did Cook's Assistant, Sheep Shearer, and then we got to Imp Catcher. So we thought the Imp Catcher might be a problem when we were first planning this out because Imps dropped a champion scroll at a 1 in 5,000 rate. So we weren't exactly sure what to do, so we looked up the actual conditions on getting a champion scroll. And it turns out that there are 2 caveats to getting a champion scroll. The first is that you must be in a member's world to receive the drop, and you also have to be above 32 quest points, something I did not know prior to starting this series. So if you don't meet those 2 conditions, you will not get a champion scroll. So we had 2 options here, and we could have hopped to F2P to start killing imps there, but we didn't have 32 quest points just yet, so we could safely kill the imps, and we got the beads with no issues. So after doing that, it was time for more quests. We did Rune Mysteries, Demon Slayer, Romeo and Juliet, The Grand Tree, Murder Mystery, Fishing Contest, Doric's Quest, Pirate's Treasure, Black Knight's Fortress, Recruitment Drive, Observatory Quest, The Restless Ghost, The Dig Site Quest, Biohazard, finish the RD Easy Diary for the cloak teleports, and it gives a little bit of stats that are going to be useful for us. Started farming cats for the death runes with the easy diary reward giving double runes, so we're going to be building death runes that way from now on. Jungle Potion, Shiloh Village, Merlin's Crystal, Elemental Workshop 1, Goblin Diplomacy, Lost Tribe, The Feud. Then I did 58 fishing at Shiloh Village and banked all the fish. And because I love you guys and wanted faster progress on the series, I even got the supplies and 3-ticked it. So now I had the option of either going to do barbarian fishing for some agility levels, but at this point I had already found out from you guys that the vote was rooftop agility, and I wanted to get this video out faster, so I started doing rooftops on mobile basically anytime I couldn't play on my PC. So throughout the rest of this progress, just know that in the background I was steadily working towards Graceful by running the Varrock course, followed by the Canifus course for quite a while. So after that, I went and blackjacked to 55 Thief and decided to stop there for the moment since it was still possible that we could get Rogue's outfit in a future vote. So we thought maybe let's hold off on doing blackjacking for now since we envisioned finishing our beginner tier vote in this video. As I said earlier, Tony was funding almost everything that we did by running the agility pyramid, and he was already at 70 agility. So he was absolutely carrying us on his back. And then it was time for some more quests, so we did the Golem and Shadow of the Storm, and then it was time for another skilling grind. This time we had to mine 2300 iron ore, and we used superheat while walking to the bank. And again, because I love you guys, I did a scuffed 3-tick version of iron mining to make it faster. I don't actually know how to 3-tick mine, I just kind of made up my own way of doing it. This got us 50 mining, 55 magic, and 42 smithing, as well as banked 2300 iron bars, which we're gonna smith into darts later, and then fletch them by putting feathers on them so that we can get some fletching XP in the future. So a lot of good stuff from this grind. And then we did Priest in Peril, Nature Spirit, Creature of Frankenstring, Elemental Workshop 2, Ernest the Chicken, Vampire Slayer, and then here we decided to skip out on doing Rag and Bone Man because we needed to kill a goblin for the skull, the Goblin Skull I think it's just called, and we couldn't do that again due to the Champion Scroll drop. And we were over 32 quest points at this time, and you can't get the drop in F2P, so we kind of had to take the L on this one and admit defeat. However, Rag and Bone Man really isn't that important of a quest in the grand scheme of things, so we can kind of ignore it for now and deal with it in the future. But that's when we would run into an even bigger problem. Lost City. So Lost City is a very important quest, as several other important quests are locked behind it due to it unlocking access to Xanaris, however you want to say it. Without completing it, you cannot get Barrow's Gloves, use Fairy Rings, or get access to the Lunar Spellbook. That's because for Barrow's Gloves, I think it's a requirement for Legends quest, so you can't do that part of RFD. You can't use Fairy Rings because the Drayman Staff is actually the item that you have to hold to teleport around. And you can't get access to the Lunar Spellbook because you have to use a Drayman Staff and turn it into the Lunar Staff in that quest, and it'll function as a Drayman Staff from that point forward. So these are all 3 very important things, especially for Ironman. Fairy Rings for the mobility, teleporting around the map is absolutely huge and makes farming contracts a lot more viable at lower levels. Barrow's Gloves are iconic, everyone knows how good those are, and not having lunars for like crafting, the glass spell or whatever is very, very good to get your crafting up. So these are all things that our accounts desperately needed. The problem that we have is that during this quest you have to go to Intrana, so you cannot carry an axe with you. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that from doing the quest yourselves, and you have to use an axe to chop the Drayman tree in order to get that Drayman Staff to enter Xanaris and finish the quest up. So in order to chop the Drayman tree, you have to get this axe by killing a zombie in the dungeon until you get the axe as a drop. Well, the only problem is zombies also drop champion scrolls, so we couldn't kill it for an axe without risking ruining the series if we had, pulled the 1 in 5,000 champion scroll drop. And the other problem is that Intrana is a members only area, so we couldn't do this in F2P to dodge the champion scroll drop. We thought like maybe we'll go to a free to play, get the axe, hop back, and then we remembered, oh yeah, Intrana is members only. We were also over 32 quest points as I discussed earlier, so that wasn't an option. So what could we do? Well, we used the Tony Ma account to confirm that you can open Clue Scroll reward caskets in this dungeon and receive the rewards. Luckily enough, in the vote, you guys actually picked medium Clue Scrolls for our medium tier task. So there was a chance to actually complete this quest by getting an adamant axe from a medium clue. The problem is that the axe is a 1 in 34 chance for medium clue scrolls, and at this point our accounts, we don't really have a good way to farm medium clues or complete them once we actually have the scrolls due to our limited transportation options. But during our mining grind, we each got one medium clue geode, and we decided to do it at the time and save the casket. We were gonna build up a little stack of caskets and do like a big opening. Well, it turned out to be a godsend because at the very least we had 2 chances to pull this off already banked, albeit a pretty slim chance at 1 in 34. So we progressed through the quest and got down into the dungeon and prayed for good fortune. So unfortunately I did not receive an axe, but Tony Ma the god of course pulled it on his first try. He traded the axe over to me, I defeated the boss, got my Draymond branches, and then I passed the axe back over to him, and he did the same, and the quest was completed without issue. So it turns out this game is actually pretty easy when you have Tony on your team, which is going to be a running theme throughout this series, I think. So we got insanely lucky here. I know it's only a 1 in 34, but to get it on our only 2 medium clues, it's not like these are easy things to do for us at this point in the account. So yeah, now we were good to go and on our way to fairy rings and inching closer towards Recipe for Disaster in the future for, Barrow's gloves. So next up was getting fairy rings. So we started on Fairy Tale Part 1, but ran into another big problem. There's a part of this quest where you're asked to get 3 random items to bring to the nature spirit in order to get magic secateurs, how do you say that? Which are also very useful for getting more yield per patch for farming. So Tony got asked to get Joker Bones as one of his items, which, you guessed it, has a champion scroll drop associated with it. After researching it, there was no real way for us to get these Joker Bones in order to help him out, because they're in a members area, and again, we're over 32 quest points, and there's no little trick or other source to get Joker Bones except just kill the Jokers. So we were pretty much screwed. We pretty much had to come face to face with the fact that we couldn't get these Joker Bones for Tony, which meant, again, not getting Lunars, Barrow's Gloves, and Fairy Rings. It wouldn't impede his path to Song of the Elves, luckily, because those quests don't affect that somehow. I don't know how. It just made the game a lot more difficult for him. But that's kind of what we wanted from this series anyways, right? A challenge. So now it was my turn to see what items that I would need. Surely there was no way that we would both get Joker Bones. The only item on the checklist that's unobtainable for us, right? Right? So now that it affected me, this was no longer okay, and I had an internal crisis. I racked my brain and tapped into every uncomfortable social experience I've ever had to fuel what little autism I had left in me to get an answer. And that answer is that there's no way for us to get this item. After more thought, I remembered something important. Me and Tony have no lives, but we had someone on the roster still who had real life responsibilities with dreams and ambitions. Tony and I had grinded so hard we had left Taylor, our 3rd man in this series, in the dust. I DM'd him immediately and realized he had not gotten 32 quest points yet. That meant he could safely kill a Joker without running the risk of getting the champion scroll. So he did just that and threw the bones in group storage, saving our worthless lives. We had squirmed our way past another obstacle in our way and completed Fairy Tale Part 1 and got far enough into Fairy Tale Part 2 to use fairy rings. So we have wormed our way out twice into getting fairy rings, but we were able to actually get them. So thank God for Taylor. So next up was Dragon Slayer 1, the Evil Dave part of Recipe for Disaster, Holy Grail, Horror from the Deep, a small Slayer grind to get to 18 Slayer for Animal Magnetism. And as I explained in the previous videos, we will also need the collection log drops from lizards, banshees, cave crawlers, crawling hands, and cave slimes in order to unlock a new beginner tier vote to prevent ourselves from being locked out of Slayer in the future. So we thought that this was as good a time as any to try and get these done, and so I went and killed I think 76 crawling hands and didn't have any luck. The crawling hand drop is roughly 1 in 500, so no surprises that I didn't get it there, but I figured I might as well try. So next I got a cave crawler task, and I got the bronze boots for the collection log, which isn't too rare at a 1 in 128. Jesus Christ.
You want him to do.
But it was nice to get it early instead of going dry. The rest Tony knocked out without going dry at a single one of the monsters. He got Mystic Gloves from Banshees at 300 KC, which is a roughly 1 in 500 drop. Mystic Gloves Light from Lizards at 246 kill count, which is a 1 in 512 drop. And finally, Iron Boots from Cave Slimes at 99 KC, a 1 in 128 drops. Drop rate. I don't know what is happening right now, but I'm leaving it in. I'm not editing this out. I'm sorry. That means in just one day, we had knocked out every drop we needed in order for a new beginner tier vote. All that remained was for me to get graceful, basically. So by this point, Tony already had 75 agility from working on his graceful set and doing an ungodly amount of agility pyramid for money. God bless his soul. His graceful was finished and we were technically ready for a new vote, but I wanted to go ahead and get my graceful also for solidarity first. I couldn't let him do everything on the first episode, so I knocked that out and kept grinding on with my new graceful, finishing Animal Magnetism, Spirits of the Elid, Underground Pass, Ghost Ahoy, and Tony, being the MVP that he is, got us some Dragon Bones for 43 prayer to do Monkey Madness later. I decided to do the Wilderness Altar and did get PK'd about halfway through an inventory, but it's fine because even with the loss, the Wildy Altar was still worth it as opposed to another method, and I got 45 prayer off the bones anyways, even though there was only like 69 of them. Nice. And from there I went and knocked out Monkey Madness, Wanted, Giant Dwarf, Forgettable Tale of a Drunken Dwarf, and Garden of Tranquility. I'm going to keep it real with you. At some point in this series, I did do Bon Voyage, but I sort of forgot when I did it. But I just wanted to go ahead and do it for the early birdhouse runs, because you do need 70 hunter for Song of the Elves, so I wanted to get an early start. So we had that going in the background, and that's going to be something I continue to do throughout the next little bit of playing, all the way up until 70, and then maybe I'll stop, but who knows, we'll just do it for as long as I feel like doing it. So that'll be going on in the background, and there were a lot of things that I left out, but you guys get the idea. The exciting thing is that it's already time for a new vote since we completed the beginner tier. So I will put that link down in the description, and I'm going to give you 24 hours to vote on a new beginner task. You guys were very, very nice in giving us rooftops last time, as Graceful has saved me a ton of time in questing and skilling because you do so much running in the early game. So I really want to say I appreciate you guys for not going for blood right away, but I will be curious to see what you guys go for this time. I'm very excited to see it. So let's see what you got for us. This was a ton of fun to make, and I've been genuinely having a lot of fun playing this account, so I hope all of you have enjoyed the progress as well. I was hoping it wouldn't be too long, but we've just done so much work so far that I wanted to get it all in this video so we can focus on doing the higher tier grind stuff later without having to catch up. I'm excited to see what you guys vote for this time. I really have no idea what you guys are going to go for since rooftops won so big last time. There wasn't really like a close second place or anything, so we'll see. But in the meantime, we'll keep grinding, and I'll probably put something out showing the results of this new vote. Unless it's something that can be done quickly, then I'll just do a standalone video showing the vote and us completing it. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to make another one. So remember to like and subscribe, and get out there and vote for our next beginner tier slot. The link is in the description below.